Hello, and welcome to the GatherVerse Founders Summit 2023. And hello to everybody on this amazing panel. We have got an amazing panel lined up today. And we're going to be talking about navigating the challenges of impact-driven entrepreneurship. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go across the panel. We'll do like a 30-second introduction each. And then once we've gone through that, then we'll get into the topics. So, Andrea, would you like to start off the introduction and introduce yourself quickly? And then we'll get into go across all the rest of the panel, and then we'll get into the discussion.
So yeah, there's two Andrea.
Oh, yes.
Andrea Carmago, sorry, my bad.
Thank you, Russell. Sorry, Andrea. So my name is Andrea Carmago. I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I studied veterinary medicine, and then I did a master's in international business and entrepreneurship and innovation. When I went back to my country, I founded ReFi Collective, which is a collective of consultants focused on regeneration. Very, very happy to be here and excited to learn from you all. So thank you.
Amazing, Andrea. And now over to the other Andrea. Well, hey!
2 for 1. So my name is Andrea. I'm from Peru. I studied architecture and urbanism, then went on to study regenerative projects and geographic, like territorial planning. And then I studied an MBA in entrepreneurship and innovation too, actually. Basically, Nodo is a community that connects creators, change agents, and indigenous communities in order to weave together financial autonomy for local cooperatives and to shape the future with projects of social and environmental impact through the intersection of art, blockchain, and culture.
That's amazing, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel today. And over to you, Ed Lance.
Hi, everyone. Ed Lance here, coming to you from downtown Los Angeles. I'm a former aerospace engineer who spent the last 30 years actually developing immersive media systems. Yes, dome theaters like the MSG Sphere, not quite on that scale. And I believe in the positive power, a positive impact of these venues to shift consciousness on a mass scale.
That's awesome, Ed. Thank you very much for joining us on the panel today. Over to you, Jared. And we've seen you before, haven't we?
Yeah, great to be back with you all. My name is Jared Arms. I'm the founder and CEO of Kyler.io Foundation, which is a 10-year nonprofit STEM organization based in St. Louis, aiming to decrease gun violence by increasing STEM awareness. So we teach kids how to make apps, websites, pretty much all like the advanced tech skills in the Web 2 and the Web 3 space.
Thanks very much, Jared. And over to you, Mark.
Yes, hi, my name is Mark. I'm a business economist. I live in Berlin. I did have many years of experience with a family-managed department store in Switzerland, and I did many small projects like face masks, distributing face masks during the pandemic, e-commerce shop, data warehouse, so many technical things. And now I work with my 2 co-founders, Jeremy and Jonas at TrustBytes, and we try to solve the problem of hacks in the Web3 space, where currently in last year were $4 billion lost by exploiting smart contracts. So that's my story.
Yeah, and also with AI, actually, we won't go down the AI topic, actually. Over to you. How do you say your name? Sorry.
Vasilapostolos or Vasapo, you can call me. So
awesome. Over to you, Vasapo.
Thank you, Russell. Very nice to meet you, all of you. My name is Vasilapostolos, or you can call me Vasapo. It's more convenient to understand. So, born and raised in Athens, Greece. At the moment, I'm doing a visiting scholar at St. Louis University. In order to actually the university to find ways to exploit our technology, because co-founder and chief operating officer at Magos, which is actually a VR exoskeleton glove type that simulates in a meaningful way the sense of touch. So we try to solve the gap that there is at the market at the moment when it comes to interact with your hands and fingers, applying in a more meaningful way haptic and force feedback subsystems. Really nice to meet you all and looking forward to our discussion today.
Thanks for joining us, Vasapo. And last but not least, and the best one of everybody, not joking, it's Omkar. Hey, Omkar.
Thank you, Russell. And it's great to be here with everyone in this panel. I'm Omkar. I'm the founder, CEO of Miracle.io. At Miracle, we are transforming homes and classrooms into real-world science labs by adding virtual elements of science labs into your physical world. So imagine setting up a microscope on your dinner table and learning how to prepare microscope mounts through your mobile device with or without internet connectivity. So that's what we do at Miracle.io. My personal background for the last decade has been in the deepest ends of technology, so mobile, AI, and immersive technologies. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you all.
Thanks, Omkar, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell Bundy. I am the CEO and founder of Malbot, which is a NFT women-focused music platform. And we're helping women creators specifically in the music industry to empower them, support them, and provide them a platform for them to come to monetize their work, etc. And I'm also the director of arts for GatherVerse as well. And that's why I'm moderating on the panel today. So, all right, so we'll start with the conversation. And first of all, the first question is, what does impact-driven entrepreneurship mean to you? And how do you measure success beyond financial returns? So I've got a note written down here. For example, by combining them together, actually, I don't even know what the note is, actually. I can't even read my own writing. So let's hand this over to one of the Andreas. Who would you like to take this question? Put your hand up. There we go. All right, over to you, Andrea.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I feel that in general, one of the most important things in any action that we do is permanence and sustainability, that it actually needs to stay for generations to come. This also comes from like knowledge that has been like with all of our ancestors and things like that. And basically, it's very important to incorporate nature and humanity as part of the concepts of entrepreneurship. So I don't necessarily see it as like impact-driven entrepreneurship, but that it has to be aligned in one definition in itself. Basically, up until now, the financial system and just economics in general has been set up in a way that it doesn't necessarily fully align with the laws of nature, which is something I think we have in common, Andrea, with like regenerative and bio, like engineering and things like that, because it's different types of mathematics. It's radial mathematics. It's not linear, and it's basically taking into account how things reverberate into the future. And I think one of the solutions for that is to integrate indigenous knowledge into our concepts of economy and finance and entrepreneurship, because our origin really holds the keys to our future. Like just mathematically, if you see, you know, like the points of like the first point and the end point, this is how we see life usually linearly. And if you start seeing it kind of more like a toroidal field or something like that, it would be that origin really is also the endpoint. So we really need to have the voices of indigenous communities in the forefront. And I guess, you know, I could talk about measuring success beyond financial returns with like KPIs and all of those subjects and stuff, but I really want to focus more on the qualitative part of things, because how are we really measuring success? Are we measuring success through the lenses of how we're told to measure it through maybe investors and how they come in, you know, with like the requirements that need to happen, and versus the lenses of the communities that we're actually working with? No, like what is success within the communities that we're working with? And in that stage, in that way of thinking, the impact is seen in every stage of the process. And really, for me, like one of the main things would be like that maybe in the next talk or something, it wouldn't be me talking, but it would be maybe Marisol from the Kiko community in the Queros at 16,400 feet high talking about this and having her voice explained there, or Natalie from the Shipibo community talking about what it is for her, what impact actually means in those mentalities, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
No, that's really awesome, and I realized what my notes were saying, by the way. Now, it's like how you said, right? They're not separate. It's combining them together into one. So, for example, like let's say someone's buying a pair of shoes, and then you're also giving the pair of shoes, to kids, for example, who are in need of shoes, for example. That's one way in how you can kind of combine them together into one impact-driven, business, so to speak. And Jared, I kind of want to bring this to you as well, because obviously you have a different perspective on this. So what's your thoughts on the question?
So for us, defining impact is really just kind of looking at like the long-term success that some of our students have at the core. So like the skills that we teach them as they continue to get older, say if we helping them get a job, being able to pass certain different assessments or different coding tests, if we taking them to different events to do marketing and advertising for their startup, making sure some of the things that we taught them within our mentorship program, that they just deliver on site. So really just making sure that the things that we teach the students, they deliver on, aside from like the financial and the partnerships and all that.
Okay, awesome. I mean, and then actually, I wanted to get like Ed into this as well, because Ed, obviously you have a complete different, background and a complete different history. What's your opinion on defining the impact?
Well, regarding impact-driven entrepreneurship, if you're not trying to make a better world in some way, you're probably making it worse. So I think it's important to enter with the right intent, no matter what you're doing, selling shoes or whatever. And especially with technologies, there's so much potential for unintended consequences for it to skew off. So we have to be careful with that and keep an eye on things and help mentor and guide it along. But measuring impact for us is pretty easy. The shows we develop in-house and optimize for impact. And then when we put them out there, we just measure how many tickets we sell. But also, we're thought leaders, and it's very hard to measure the impact of thought leadership. You just get out there, you start talking and inspiring people, and who knows how you're affecting others, hopefully in a positive way.
I mean, thanks for your insight, Ed. I mean, that's a complete different perspective in kind of, looking at things. So how do we kind of like balance like the often conflicting demands of like profitability and social environment impact? Because we were saying about how we can kind of like combine it together, but how do we balance those side of things from a social impact standpoint and also a profitability standpoint? So Mark, I'm going to bring you onto this. What do you think on this side of things?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important that you select the goals you want to have impact on. So for us, it is bring the Web3 to make it safe, and then bring the economic value as promised from Web3 to the people out there, and not with centralized entities. And with having that, with this goal in mind, you need to see how we can contribute to that. What about the resources we can spend to that? And to keep these two things in balance, we need to have a very solid business model, because without having a business model that really works and you do something for your customers, what you really need, it's very hard to be impactful. So I think you need to know what the impact goals are, what you're after, and it should be very clear. But as well, never lose the eyes of your customer, who is finally paying for all this impact that you want to generate. So here, I think it's very important to follow both of these topics on a regular basis, and as well check that as good as you can and as often as you can, that you as well have no mission drift. So this can happen very easily, that one goal gets higher weighted and finally you go in one direction you initially didn't want to go. So I think this is the balancing act you need to do quite often, and always to learn. That's the point. When you do a journey like that, it's not like you know everything from the beginning. You get that much more information from talking with customers, from talking with the people you want to help. understanding the entire ecosystem. And so bringing everything together finally makes you even more impactful, and you need to reflect on that. And by doing this, I think you do a good job balancing impact and profitability.
And I think that comes back into kind of what Andrea was saying earlier, right? Which is KPIs, right? It's a great way to keep an eye on things. But also, if you're sticking with your mission, right? Your original mission of what you set out to originally do and what your vision is, right? And how you're helping that impact. I think that's a great way as well in staying on mission and staying on, on course of, balancing the profitability, but also the social impact at the same time. And I want to talk to Andrea Carmago, because in a DAO, it's completely different, right? So, Andrea, can you talk to us about how you do that within a DAO system?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, DAO, I think Andrea Silva, she has more expertise about it.
Oh,
but
sorry, it was like, yeah, go ahead.
I can definitely comment on this question related to, I mean, we try to implement all these social and environmental impact to the business model. But what if instead of creating a human-centered design, we start creating a life or centered design that integrates humans, animals, the environment, and other creatures into what we are creating? And then we don't have to balance that, or it doesn't have to be like conflicting, but it's already inside creating this positive impact.
So it's kind of like a community system, right? Where it's a collaboration, everybody coming together to make decisions to, keep the mission and the business moving forward, so that it's always, basically what the community wants, and maintaining that social impact, but also profitability at the same time with the community. That's kind of like how I would see it, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I really like what you said there, Andrea. So thank you. And Andrea Silva, we'll quickly bring you into this because I want to understand a bit more of actually running the DAO, right? So Andrea Silva, just quickly, give your perspective on kind of the DAO system towards this specifically.
So I think like directly to this question, the way that it applies is profitability and social and environmental impact are seen in two different ways, right? It depends on like who is looking at what the profitability is and who is looking at what the impact is. And so I think most of the time, whenever someone gives you, for example, like funding, or whenever someone's looking for, the numbers to come up and like to have more product and things like that, there's not a direct connection or communication with the from the end user and the investor with the community that people are working with. So that's the idea with Nodo. We're gathering together all these different people within the same space continuously. So there is a more human viewpoint of like, this is the person that's actually in the community, this is what the person needs and things like that. And there's so many mentalities that shift so differently. Like, for example, basically, we're working with local cooperatives that are indigenous communities in Peru initially. And the first proof of concept is with textiles, like woven alpaca textiles from the mountains of Peru. And so if you go up there and you talk to the communities, it's like there is maybe a community that knows how to like thread the alpaca, and then there's a community that knows how to weave it, and then there's another community that knows how to dye it. But all the community, like a community doesn't necessarily know everything. But for example, there's another community that does know everything. So I just wanted to share this story because it kind of shifts a lot the perspective, because then you talk to that community, right? The one that knows everything. Because it's like, okay, we're trying to gather together all of these communities to work into one common goal. So like if we create one product, we're doing it with like the 4 different communities that have the different skill sets, or we can do it with one community that has all the skill sets. But then you go talk to that community and you ask them, would you rather get 100% of the equity of the product that you're having and like advance like just your community, or would you rather have 30% and advance with 2 other communities, for example? And it's crazy because the response with the communities that we're working with is usually the second one. It's usually like, I'd rather actually do it together and grow steadily with more communities than doing that. So then that's kind of how it shifts, no? It's like the profitability, like for example, usually the women are the ones that weave in the community, and the women are like teaching their like children, like the girls, the little girls, how to weave. And when they teach them that, they're having like an experience there. They're also like raising their kids. They're also helping take care of the alpacas. They're also like helping take care of the family. So maybe that's why it also takes like a month and a half minimum to a year sometimes to do a weaving, like with all the symbology that it has. If I go and talk to a woman there and tell her, hey, I want 20 units in a month versus, like, and that's going to give you more profit. It's like, okay, but I also want this, what's happening with my family. Like, this is also important. So it's like changing, like, it's like we need to be able to adapt our perspective also to their perspective. Like, we need to be able to adapt, like, what environmental and social impact actually means, especially like, so I'm focusing on social more right now, and what profitability means if we adapt it into the indigenous knowledge viewpoint, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a lot about collaboration. It's about bringing people together, but also at the same time, like the profitability comes along with that as you bring more people together, because the more they collaborate, the more knowledge that everyone has, the more people can come cohesively do it together, and then a more bigger impact is made in the world. So I completely agree with everything that you're saying 100%. I am aware of the time, so we're going to just kind of skip on to the next slide now, and we're going to hand this over to Vaspo. So within this particular question, how do you kind of engage with stakeholders such as like investors, customers, or community, as me and we've just been talking about, in your impact-driven goals? So over to you, Vaspo.
Yeah, I think this is one of very, significant question for every startup because it's really important to create a feedback approach when you progress your product and your solution. So I think you have to bring every perspective around your solution in order to get feedback from for every feature and what's the main goal of your solution. And in our particular case, for example, that we are trying to bridge the gap between interaction via hands inside virtual world, we have to let's say provide a solution to several profiles out there, like software houses that they have to integrate our solution into their existing software. So they need the tools, in order to proceed with this integration in an easy way. Also, we have the end users. So we have to understand better the wearability and the ergonomic of the wearable that we are developing in order to optimize the user experience of the end users. And at the same time, having provided the tools to the developers to create interesting and realistic interactions with the virtual objects. But also, as you mentioned, the community and especially investors, because, if you create something that it's really innovative and it's, let's say, 5 years ahead of the market, then you have to create all these relationships with these all profiles in order to make it real and visible to investors that your solution is something that is meaningful to them and they are going to support your approach down the road. So I think this is an integral part to bring everyone together and create and design your solution based on their feedback as one of the most interesting actions that you have to do down the road.
Vaspo, well said, honestly. And just kind of thinking from my aspect as well as a startup and everything as well. I mean, yeah, like, especially when you talk about Web 3.0 and obviously, VR, XR, AI, all this kind of new technology stuff, you have to make the product as easy and seamless as possible, because if you don't do that, there's no way of being able to share it with the
Most
community, or bring in new customers, or be able to get investors on board to be able to invest.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Just one comment here. We've seen the last 2 or 3 years a lot of let's say endeavors that try to force the adoption of this type of technologies without a specific goal at the end of the day. So I think this experimentation phase has to be in a more, let's say, relaxed way. We have to experiment every component out there of technologies in order at the end of the day to bring these components and these technologies together in a meaningful way. At the end of the day, we have to solve problems and not creating new ones. So I think it's really important, this part of the product life cycle, let's say.
And there's one guy that I originally watched like quite a while ago. He says, start from the end point and then work your way backwards, right? So for example, you look at this from an indigenous like female's perspective, for example, and then work your way backwards as to like what they want. Or for example, a women creator, you start with like what their problems are, and then you work your way backwards that way. So yeah, well said, Vaspo. And I do want to bring Ed Lance onto this quickly, and then we will go over to you, Omkar, don't worry. So Ed Lance, I want to bring you into this as well, because you have this great, XR, VR venues that you're making, and all this immersive technology that you're blending in. So how do you do this, where you work with your stakeholders, investors, and customers, and the community that you have as well in your impact-driven goals?
Sure. Well, the customers are the easier part of it, because we're offering what are essentially entertainment experiences that open hearts and open minds through a sense of awe and wonder. So when you connect with people in this way, you're activating them in ways that are very moving. In other words, it's engaging. And if entertainment's not engaging, you don't make money from it, generally speaking. So, that's the easier part, the community. And we're now working on community activation programs where attendees can choose where we share profits with what in their community, what programs in their community would they like us to donate to. Investors are a little harder for us. The format is like new. What is this? Right. So, and then when you say, "Oh yeah, we're going to have a positive impact," they're like, "Oh God,
yeah, like what? No, I'm out. Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, no, it's very interesting because I think there's a right way and a wrong way you can do things. Like you can still do things right. You can still have an impact driven. Being able to do it for good, but at the same time being able to make it profitable, right? Like there's nothing wrong with doing that whatsoever.
Yeah. If you reveal your primary agenda as impact, then they think, oh no, profit's not their motive.
Yeah. Which actually we're going to be getting into that very shortly, Ed. But Omkar, I want to just get your opinion on this quickly from your perspective too, from making these amazing classrooms and everything that you're doing over there. Talk to us. Tell us how you would engage stakeholders.
Yeah, I think most of the people who have spoken on this topic have covered quite a lot of things. I think in the end, you don't want to build something that nobody wants. So I think it's extremely important to really engage the people who you're impacting. So in this case, customers, users, it's extremely important to have some sort of a focus group that you're interacting with on a regular basis to make sure that every turn that you're navigating is somewhat in the right direction. You can't know for sure if it's perfectly in the right direction at that point, but at least it's not in the opposite direction. I think that's the basic thing that you can validate with a regular check-in with some sort of a focus group. In our case, with Miracle, we are working with two diverse stakeholder groups, main stakeholder groups. One is teachers, educators. So typically, let's say 25 years old and above, and students, typically in their teenage years. So different generations in that sense, and different abilities and different familiarities with technology, and especially advanced cutting edge technology, frontier technology like mixed reality. So the trick for us was to be able to build something that is engaging to the students as Ed mentioned, like edutainment is the angle that we're looking at, like at it from. Like you need to capture their imagination, but at the same time, sort of give them something valuable. And at the same time, make it easy for the 35-year, 40-year-old teacher to use in the classroom on a day-to-day. So that makes it a bit of a tricky case for us, but I feel like we've cracked it, because today in rural India, people and teachers in rural public schools in India are using Miracle and using its 4D features to explain how atoms are structured and how the nervous system works, and many other complex topics that otherwise require a lot of imagination, but today are made possible. So those are my 2 cents on the stakeholder involvement. About investors, I think Ed sort of covered it in a very elegant way that I probably would never be able to match. So, but I 100% aligned with Ed's thoughts on that. Yeah,
That's awesome. And first of all, that's awesome to hear about India, adopting. I think that's really awesome that they're already embracing the new technologies. That's really great. And second of all, I think education is a very important aspect, no matter what you're doing education-wise, whether it's just Web3 in general or STEM or whatever you're kind of doing for your specific area of what where you're at. I think education is extremely important across the board. So kudos to you, Omkar, for coming on today. Now let's talk about resource allocation. And as we are all impact-driven entrepreneurs, what challenges do you face in allocating resources effectively or efficiently for both business growth, but also creating impact at the same time? Now, Andrea Carmago, because we haven't spoken to you much, I'm going to bring you on this. So what's your thoughts on allocating resources efficiently for both business growth, but also for creating impact as well?
Well, I can speak in the Colombian market because it's how I've been moving professionally. I think for entrepreneurs that want to make this impact, they definitely need to, of course, involve stakeholders, but also involve the people that will actually fund the project. Because sometimes we think, oh, the banks and the investors are only focused on the profits. But when you, here in Colombia, when you, for example, have an agro project and you go and look for funds, they actually ask you, okay, first, what are the social and environmental positive impact you're making? And then some companies don't actually know what to say, or maybe they are doing some positive impact in the communities or in nature, but they don't know how to express that to the investors. So it depends where you look. I think more and more investors and in general all the resource allocation is going through this transformational phase where the communities and the climate positive actions are well rewarded, and we're going to be I mean, it's part of the trends that we're seeing now, especially in Latin America.
That's awesome to hear. And greenness and saving the earth and everything, that's a whole massive topic on its own. But I do want to bring this back to you, Jared, because with you owning a charity and everything like that, how do you allocate your resources efficiently for both business growth but also create impact? And what challenges do you face doing that as well?
Yeah, so really trying to utilize our volunteers and partner with different nonprofits are like the 2 core ways that we do it. The challenges with that, of course, is like such a huge demand that we have in St. Louis, or having like a lack of maybe mentors to help us out. I'm trying to decrease, or I guess not probably possibly end, but stuff like fighting child sex trafficking, missing kids, starvation, homelessness, unemployment and stuff like that. So that stuff can get quite expensive to try to reverse it in a sense. So the challenge is like trying to find the partners who's willing to, put in enough for like, which group of students do you all want to help out of so many kids that we have contact with? So really just, I guess, responding to the students they have a sponsor and letting the other ones know, like, well, just give us some more time, but we're trying to help you and stuff. That's like the most challenging part, having a lack of resources to help such a huge community that's reaching out to us. But really just, again, utilizing our volunteers and trying to partner with nonprofits to help us out. And then we have companies reaching out to us too to help us with sponsoring. H&R Block just came on with the nice grant. The St. Louis Cardinals just reached out, so we'll be working with them soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that helps it out. Trying to reach out to them will probably be a lot more challenging. So, just making sure you be accessible to and always responding to these different contacts, that'd be huge.
I mean, there's just with resources specifically, right? It is such a challenge, right? Because, not only is it like allocating the resources, but also like you've got challenges as in like, what do you prioritize, right? Do you prioritize helping the children first, or do you prioritize like the charity first so that we can continue operating? Like, where do you go, kind of thing, right? And that's what I found, with MadBob is, with the limited resources we have is, do we focus on getting creators on first and helping them and educating them or anything, or do we, focus on the product side and getting that completed and then allowing them to use it? So it's challenging. And Mark, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. From your tech business and the way that you do like your smart contracts and check-in and stuff like that, how do you kind of allocate your resources as auditing company?
Yeah, well, I think most important thing is give the resources to the auditors who's doing the work and not extracting them. Currently, it's we want to create a marketplace where we have the auditor first there, so the value that they generate should go to them and not to a community, to a platform who uses it in another way. And as well, when we starting to create our product in artificial intelligence, which makes the auditors then finally better and more productive, we want to do this with our auditors on our marketplace to give it then back the value and move them finally from an active income where they are working to passive income, where they finally work with artificial intelligence and are I would say 10x, 50x more productive at the end. So we try to focus most on our key player, which is the auditor, and try to place it there and make their life finally better.
Yeah, that's really awesome what you're doing, and I think that's a great way in being able to put auditors, first rather than them trying to go through different marketplaces to find them, or trying to go through different websites to that website and all over the place. So I think that's really awesome what you're doing, in how you're doing that. And I'm just going to kind of skip a couple of slides because we're running out of time. I want to specifically talk more about the scale and impact side of things, because obviously scaling and having an impact, can be hard, right? Trying to do that at the same time. So, can impact-driven ventures scale effectively without diluting their core mission, right? Like staying on mission, and also what are some strategies for doing so, and how to kind of maintain on mission. And Ed Lance, we will head over to you on this one. What's your personal thought on this?
Sure. Well, scaling is a challenge, and even referring back to the previous question, you have challenges with how much to invest in refining and perfecting the impact of your XR experience, versus scaling and like that. So it's definitely a balancing act between perfecting and investing in the product and its positive impact aspects, and investing in getting it out there in a bigger way. I think it just really requires dedication to your impact goals and making sure that you're being true to your original vision and mission.
And yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. I'm not joking. That was actually well said. So thanks, Ed Lance. And we'll kind of go on to the last topic, which we did cover before, which was the funding side of things, right? What unique challenges have you encountered when securing funding for your impact-focused venture? And any advice for those looking to attract impact investment? So Andrea, Silvia, we'll hand this one over to you. What's your personal thoughts on getting funding for an impact-focused venture?
Yeah, this is a tricky one because the whole point of Nodo is for financial and cultural autonomy in indigenous communities. So that's kind of why I got into Web3 initially, because I was working with communities. I was working in nonprofits initially, and it was like a nonprofit works with the communities and is always dependent on the investments that are coming, and then the communities are always dependent on those investments, and so it's not fully autonomous. So then I studied that MBA because I wanted to find a way, maybe through doing a social entrepreneurship or something, to find autonomy. But then you also do need like the seed investors, and that also has like a big percentage of decision processes within the company. And at the end, the communities don't have their own decision processes towards the company. So that basically the way that we are looking at it is that the DAO, or the community, that diverse community that gets together, brings in the funding and it goes into a local cooperative. Most of the issues that are happening with marginalized, with indigenous communities directly, is that their artisanship and their products are not necessarily valued as much as they should be. Like it takes maybe a month and a half to a year to do something, and it's sold in an artisanal market for $100, $200, but then someone takes it to the US or Europe and sells it for $3,000. And then, the community doesn't know what happens with the product as soon as it gets out of their community. And the end customer has to trust, the Instagram pictures or the things of like, yeah, we're helping the communities and things like that. So that's the first kind of use of blockchain that we're looking at, where blockchain is used for supply chain management. So basically the proof of concept that I was telling you about with the textiles, it's bringing that one product from the top of the mountain, so that's like 16,400 feet high, and then how long it takes to go to the next point, and how much it costs, and to the next point, and how much it costs, and who does it, and all these things. And having traceability and transparency in each of these parts of it is important, so that the community can know, first of all, what happened to the product once it's done, how much was really, like, what were the costs really, and how much really is the fair trade that they're receiving, and that the end user can know what happens with that. So in a way, that kind of like answers a little the first question of the stakeholders and how to keep them involved, because you can see what's happening in real time. But the main thing is, scalability, and doing it like step by step, starting super small, like figuring out like all the data that's coming. That's kind of one of the main challenges, like all the data that's coming, keeping it in real time and keeping it transparent and traceable. So basically, it's like coherency and finding investors that are looking for a different type of funding where the autonomy of the communities are really put in first place, and we can find, so that's kind of been the tricky thing in the funding hurdles for us.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea Silva. And I'm just going to quickly hand this over to Vaspo, and then we're going to finish off with just quickly everyone saying where they can go to find you. So Vaspo, you literally got 60 seconds or less to tell people what unique challenges are encountered in securing funding. The question on the screen, basically.
Yeah. Sure. I think based on my experience, at least, is the localization. So first of all, you have to find the place that has the maturity in order to support you. That means that there is funding ecosystem. There is the general ecosystem of partners, but also potential clients, in order to create the brief of your solution. I think this is really important for every endeavor out there that wants to create a sustainable model down the road, to find investors, that at the same time there is the ecosystem that is going to support the endeavor that you are engaged at. So this is, I think, the most important part, taking into consideration that my endeavor, deep tech technology, starting from Greece, Athens, and we had to move to London in order to achieve that. So in practice, we saw the value out of it.
Right, we're going to have to end it there. I'm sorry, guys. It is the end of the show. I'm just going to quickly say, you can find, everyone has LinkedIn here, right? So everyone can find you guys on LinkedIn, just making sure everyone's got LinkedIn. So if you want to find anyone from this panel, please search them up on LinkedIn, find them on there, and you can add them, connect with them, have a chat with them. And of course, you can find me as well on LinkedIn as well, Russell Bundy. And of course, we helping women creators across the world. So thanks very much, panel. Thank you to all of you. And thank you very much to Christopher. And may our Gather be well. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.